South Carolina, thank you for everything. At POTUS.
South Carolina, we did it again. You did it for me again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 2020 and now again in 2024. Now let's go win the whole thing. Let's win it all.
As I said years ago, this campaign is for everyone who has been knocked down, counted out, and left behind. That is still true today, with more than 14 million new jobs and a record 24 straight months 2 years of the unemployment rate under 4%, including a record low unemployment rate for Black Americans. We are leaving no one behind. In 2020, it was the voters of South Carolina who proved the pundits wrong, breathed new life into our campaign, and set us on the path to winning the presidency. Now, in 2024, the people of South Carolina have spoken again, and I have no doubt that you have set us on the path to winning the presidency again, and making Donald Trump a loser again. When I was elected president, I said the days of the backbone of the Democratic Party being at the back of the line were over. That was a promise made and a promise kept. Now, you are first in the nation. The stakes in this election could not be higher. There are extreme and dangerous voices at work in the country, led by Donald Trump, who are determined to divide our nation and take us backward. We cannot let that happen. We've come a long way these past 4 years, with America now having the strongest economy in the world and among the lowest inflation of any major economy. Let's keep pushing forward. Let's finish what we started together at POTUS. President Biden has won the first in the nation primary at BIDENOMICS. Yes, indeed. South Carolina did it again. Hashtag Biden-Harris yes we can. In 2020, the people of South Carolina showed up to vote. You convinced your friends, family, members, neighbors, and co-workers of the power of their vote. It is because of that work that at Joe Biden and I are in the White House. Let's do it again today at VP. The last guy had the worst jobs record since the Great Depression. Our record is a little different at POTUS. In 2020, the voters of South Carolina paved the way for at Joe Biden to be president and me to be vice president. Now, the people of South Carolina have spoken again. Let's finish what we started together at VP. DNC Chair at Harris and Jamie on the importance of South Carolina going first in the Democratic primaries at BIDENOMICS.
Those folks who were in bondage, the progeny of the folks who pick cotton. Now those folks won't be picking cotton, but will be picking presidents.
South Carolina, take it from David Williamson, JRB, a member of the Friendship 9. Vote at Harris and Jamie.
Hey folks, this is Jamie Harrison, DNC Chair, and I'm here with Living History, Mr. Williamson, who is a part of the Friendship 9 here in Rock Hill, South Carolina. He sat here 63 years ago at this lunch counter because he was fighting for freedom. Mr. Williamson,
your vote is your voice. Please go out and vote. It is crucial. Thank you.
In the last 3 years, we have seen 16 million applications to start small businesses, and we've had record small business growth in Black and Hispanic communities. President Biden and I are clear. We must build an economy that works for every American at VP. Under the Biden-Harris administration, our nation is beating economic forecasts and breaking records for job growth. Here's what it means for the American people at VP. Our economy has created 14.8 million jobs since I took office. Unemployment has been under 4% for 2 full years now, and inflation has been at the pre-pandemic level of 2% over the last half year. Policies are working at POTUS. Joe Madison was the voice of a generation. Whether it was a hunger strike for voting rights or his advocacy for anti-lynching legislation that I was proud to sign in 2022, Joe fought hard against injustice. Jill's and my thoughts are with his wife, Sherry, and entire family at POTUS. This morning, I joined friends and colleagues at our U.S. Capitol for the National Prayer Breakfast. We may disagree on a lot, but we can all agree that we're blessed to live in a place where we can practice our many faiths and lift up our nation and each other in prayer at POTUS. Black history is American history, and Black culture, stories, and triumphs are at the core of who we are as Americans at POTUS. Historic news. Medicare is making offers to drug companies responsible for making 10 of the most widely used and expensive drugs. To be clear, Medicare is negotiating for lower drug prices with Big Pharma. For the first time ever, we fought for this and won at POTUS. We are with ya, Joe. Hashtag Biden 2024. My charcoal drawing at John Lee Infinity Art 2. Optimism is up at POTUS. $353,000 jobs created in January, 14.8 million jobs since at POTUS and at VP took office. Unemployment under 4% for 2 years at Seacon Gentileman. POTUS notches huge win. U.S. economy grew a blistering 3.3% in Q4. Inflation below 3. Biden boom is real and voters notice. Biden has lots to boast about. He'll coast to victory in 24. Blue wave grows every day. Way to go, Joe, at Warrensville. We have hashtag Biden boom graphs too, at Marco Ferrieri. And now, Fox News viewers also get the news. The latest hashtag jobs report shows an astounding new jobs growth of 353,000 in January. Unemployment down to 3.7. It's Biden's America, and the hashtag Biden boom is real at Mary Olive 08. This is the Biden boom at Silversmith.
In breaking news here, the latest jobs report shows the economy added 353,000 jobs last month. The unemployment rate remaining steady at 3.7%. Joining us to break down those numbers, CNN anchor and business correspondent Rahel Solomon. This isn't just good. This is really good and beating expectations.
Yeah, this is a stunningly good report, a hot report. So expectations, Erica, were closer to 176,500, let's call it. So this is twice what Wall Street was expecting. As you pointed out, the unemployment rate remained at 3.7%, third month in a row. We've been in this really tight range of unemployment under 4% for at least 2 years now. When you look at the industries where we added jobs in January, this was what was really interesting to me. So professional and business services, really, I think the bulk of it here, adding 74,000 jobs in January. If you compare that to 2023, we added about 14,000 jobs per month. So you think professional and business services, think sort of white collar jobs, accounting, for example, healthcare. That's a continuation of what we saw last year. Healthcare adding 70,000, retail adding 45,000. As Phil laid out quite nicely there, this is a really important year, both politically and economically. And so this is the first jobs report. So a lot of eyes are going to be watching this both on Wall Street, both on Main Street and Washington. And what it shows is that it's an economy that continues to hum. When expectations were that we would be in a recession in 2023 or the labor market would start to cool in a significant way, it hasn't happened.
Hashtag Biden boom headlines at Marco Ferrieri. Try as they might, Republicans haven't been able to doomsay us into a recession. Hashtag Biden boom. Thanks, Joe. At Limnubbin. Republicans are gushing in their home states and districts about all the new projects and jobs created with funding from the Infrastructure, Investment and Jobs Act, which most of them voted against, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and others. At Bugden Stephen. Goddamn, way to go. Hashtag badass Biden doc. Hashtag dark Brandon. Hashtag Biden boom doc. Jobs report at Robin Loves Disney. The hashtag Biden boom headlines keep coming. 353,000 jobs were created last month, almost double what was expected. At Marco Ferreri. Smart money gets behind HOTUS. Stock market hits record highs and voters notice. Hashtag Biden boom is coming home to us. GDP surges. 14 meters new jobs created. Inflation below 3. Biden finally getting credit for historic wins. Way to go, Joe. At Warrensville. My favorite part of the hashtag Biden boom is when the same Fox News hosts who predicted a recession get knocked on their asses with huge job report numbers. Hearing them say, wow, is everything undeniably awesome. At Mampadellen.
We're waiting on the jobs numbers where we're expecting 180,000 jobs created in the month of January, and the unemployment rate to tick higher. You got the numbers?
Wow.
All right, let's get right to Cheryl.
This is something. 353,000 non-farm jobs. I had to seriously double check this, guys.
353,000 jobs added in the first month of the year. Unemployment stays at 3.7%. What a blowout report.
On the economy, the U.S. adding a surprisingly strong 353,000 jobs last month. Unemployment stays at 3.7%.
No one expected the jobs number to come at 350,000 jobs. Unemployment 3.7%. Wages up year over year 4.4%. I've been calling this for a long time, but this is Goldilocks. This is as good as it gets, and we already know inflation's coming down, which means purchasing power is going to go up this year. Consumers are going to have money to spend.
The 46th President of the United States.
On his first full day in office, President Biden unveils plans to get COVID vaccines into the arms of more Americans.
More than 100 million Americans are now fully vaccinated.
The American Rescue Plan that will tackle the pandemic and get direct financial assistance and relief to Americans who need it the most.
President Biden signed his landmark bipartisan infrastructure bill.
President Joe Biden signed executive orders aimed at tackling climate change.
President Biden signing into law the landmark Inflation Reduction Act.
President Biden just signed a bill into law today boosting domestic semiconductor production and research in the United States.
Madam Vice President, no president has ever said those words from this podium.
Many believe the White House has made a deal with China on the fentanyl crisis to help stop the flow of fentanyl into the United States.
Face-to-face diplomacy back on the global stage.
That's a major part of Biden's vision to reassert the United States on the world stage as a beacon of democracy.
Today, I'm honored to officially introduce to you the next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, because of the Inflation Reduction Act, seniors on Medicare are paying $35 a month.
When I heard about that $35 cap, I cried tears of joy.
The U.S. hiring surged well beyond analysts' expectations while the unemployment rate fell to its lowest since 1969.
He is clearly showing support for the United Auto Workers.
Unions help the middle class.
When you guys fight for workers' rights, it benefits everybody.
Today, I'm proud to announce a new program called the SAVE Plan.
It brings the Biden administration's total approved debt cancellation to $127 billion, impacting nearly 3.6 million Americans.
We have created more small businesses in the last 2-year span than any 2-year span in history.
Today, President Biden is announcing the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention.
I'm announcing a pardon for all prior federal offenses for the simple possession of marijuana. I'm about to sign an executive order that is the most significant action any government anywhere in the world has ever taken on AI safety, security, and trust. I've never been more optimistic about America's future. There is nothing beyond our capacity if we work together.
The U.S. economy expanded at a 3.3% annualized pace in the final quarter of 2023, the Commerce Department said on Thursday. Why it matters? It's much stronger growth than economists expected, perhaps a year of economic resilience as the nation avoided a projected recession. The economy moderated in the September-December period compared to the previous quarter's 4.9% growth, which got a notable boost from companies building up inventories. The big picture, economic growth has been underpinned by booming consumer spending that continued even as prices for many items remained steep and interest rates rose.
That dynamic continued in the fourth quarter, which saw consumer spending boom, rising at a 2.8% annual rate, only slightly easing from the 3.1% in the previous quarter.
Details. The strong inventory buildup that pushed up growth in the third quarter slowed in the most recent data. Meanwhile, fixed investment, spending on factories, equipment, and more, rose 1.9%, up slightly from the 1.4% in the third quarter.
Housing activity, meanwhile, slowed from the prior quarter's rapid pace, 1.1% in the fourth quarter compared to 6.7% in the third quarter. The bottom line, the strong data shows the U.S. economy was solid in 2023, even as aggressive interest rate hikes by the Federal Reserve still rippled through the economy. That happened alongside cooling inflation, defying doomsayers who suggested a downturn was all but necessary to crush price pressures. Editor's note, this is a breaking news story. Check back for updates.
I heard about this place, man.
You really?
Good to see you.
Great.
So you got the best
No matter who walks through those doors, they know that this is a place that they belong.
My dad used to have an expression. What's that? Swear to God. See, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck.
Absolutely.
It's about your dignity. Absolutely. It's about respect. Taking pride in what you do.
Now being on the other side of it as an employer, we know that our profit margins should never come at the expense of our employees. So that's perfect.
I think she got to be Secretary of Labor.
Brothers and sisters, UAW family, let's welcome President Joe Biden.
We now have, in large part because of you and organized labor, the strongest economy in the whole damn world. We do. We do. The whole world. Inflation's coming down. The jobs are growing. We created 800,000 manufacturing jobs. Remember they told us we were dead, manufacturing's dead in America? China's eating our lunch? Well, guess what, man? We don't taste that good. Let's go spread the pain.
Mr. President, so it's time for us to go to war and put the power of the membership behind it, and we're going to do it. So I'm looking forward to it.
So am I.
If our endorsements must be earned, Joe Biden has earned it.
A job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about decency. It's about your dignity. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it, and mean it. Folks, that's what the UAW is all about, and it's always been that way. Hello, Joe Biden. Sean?
Hey, Mr. President, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Sorry to be a few minutes late. I was downstairs doing an event.
So you have stuff going on, evidently, as president, huh?
Nothing more important than talking to you, Sean. And that's a fact.
I just want to let you know I'm sitting here with our entire international executive board, and we wanted to call and let you know that
we've met and we decided it's time
to endorse you for president, and we're going to put the UAW membership behind you.
Whoa. You were the first outfit out there, endorsed me when I ran in 1972 as a kid. You helped me out then.
We appreciate you standing up with us in our fight.
And, you know, we look forward to continuing the fight
now with you as our president. And let me assure you this, we're ready to stand up for you in your election, and your fight now, it's our fight. So we're going to put everything we have into this, and we're going to make it happen.
I tell you what, man, this is exciting. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. We're glad to be with you.
Well, the problem with being with a Biden, you can't get rid of this, you know?
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Mr. President.
You guys are my guys.
The man totally committed to making every American a part of the American dream, Joe Biden.
We are back with some breaking economic data.
Big data. The U.S. economy added a stronger than expected 353,000 jobs in January, while the unemployment rate came in at 3.7%.
Here to help us make sense of these numbers is NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung, Investopedia's editor-in-chief Caleb Silver, of course, our economic dream team. I think we have that graphic just to break me every time. The bobble gets me. Brian, I will start with you. This is coming in hot. Walk us through these latest numbers and how they compare with the previous month.
Yeah, a little bit of context is always helpful. And again, 353,000 jobs. That was way above what economists had expected going into this month. The expectation, 185,000. The number came in so high, our y-axis doesn't even cover it. So it would actually be above the height of this chart. The last time we've seen a monthly gain that high was in January of last year when, again, not covered on this chart, it was over 400,000 jobs added in that month. So above the pace that we had seen. And important to also note that the unemployment rate, how many people are out of work relative to the overall labor force, at 3.7%, staying below that 4% unemployment rate, which we were able to do for the entirety of last year. This labor market, this jobs market remains hot.
We're going to need a bigger board. Yeah. All right, Caleb, your thoughts?
Good one.
Yeah, I had to check Brian's coffee after he sped out the number because I couldn't believe it either. 353,000, plus they revised the December numbers up. Just in the past 2 months, guys, almost 700,000 jobs added. When we thought the jobs market was slowing, not only that, wage growth continues to increase, now up 4.5% on an annual basis. Wages are hot, jobs are hot. There's still 1.4 million jobs out there. This labor market is hot, maybe too hot right now.
All right. We're going to talk about that in a sec. Brian, tell us categories here. Where have we seen the biggest gains, biggest losses?
Yeah, well, of course, you want to know where in the jobs market did we see gains. So I highlighted a few going into today. So leisure and hospitality, this has been the big driver of job growth in the post-pandemic recovery, slowing a little bit in terms of job gains. It's still adding 11,000 in the month, but it was healthcare that added the lion's share of what we saw in this month, about 70,000 jobs added there. But I also want to call attention to information. This is going to include jobs in the media as well as some jobs in tech. It did gain about 15,000 jobs, but I bring this up because we have been seeing quite a number of headlines over the past few weeks, even just since we flipped into the new year with layoffs at a number of companies in tech and also in media. So these are things that we're going to watch. They might not be reflected in this report, but we have to keep this in mind as we get to some of the later reports in the winter.
All right, so Caleb, you said perhaps too hot. We know that Fed rates unchanged. Jerome Powell seemed to downplay a cut in March. Now what?
Yeah, I don't think a March cut is on the table. They were going to be data dependent. This data says the labor market is hot. Companies are still hiring aggressively. Consumers, by the way, continuing to spend even though debt levels are at record high, and the wages keep increasing. So definitely no cut probably in March, 75% chance they stay the same. May could be a potential cut, but right now the way things are going, especially with the higher revisions for the last couple months of the year when we thought the labor market was waning, this doesn't look like we're going to get a cut anytime soon. Stock market not liking these numbers either.
Really? Okay.
Oh, Brian, Caleb just mentioned wages here. Tell us what we're learning from wage growth numbers.
Yeah, well, again, let's rehash that number because when we look at the average hourly earnings, how much more are people making this year compared to this time last year? 4.5%. This is actually a faster pace than we had seen in the December report. But notably, and we have to remember this, wages are outpacing inflation. This is a trend that we had not seen until the spring of last year. So inflation was very much a big part of the story, eroding households' wallets for the 2022 period where we saw peak inflation. That story has flipped as of the spring last year. Does this get felt politically? It takes time for this to be felt by the American constituents. But again, this story, broadly speaking, good for Americans, but does present a conundrum for the Federal Reserve, which thought this number may be 4%, maybe 3.9%. You want it above inflation, but not running so hot that maybe it reignites potentially inflation in the future.
All right, Brian, Caleb, what a number. Thank you for walking us through it. Breaking news. There's your cha-ching. Thanks, guys.
Our approach is a fundamental break from trickle-down economics, supercharged by my predecessor. My predecessors like to say, America is a failing nation. My faith, bless me, Father, for his sin. I mean, come on. We're doing pretty damn well economically and we're getting better. He wants to see the stock market crash. You know why? He doesn't want to be the next Herbert Hoover. As I told him, he's already Hoovered.
The president made a campaign stop in Raleigh, North Carolina to celebrate the state of the economy under his administration. And today, we got more positive news. People filing for unemployment for the first time fell to the lowest level since 2022, and wages continue to rise faster than inflation. And in December, this is the number that I want to pay attention to. Retail sales rose more than expected. Now, many Americans say they're unhappy with the economy, but they are out there spending. Joining me now, my dear friend David Gura, business correspondent for NPR, and I want to start right there on retail sales. I often say that Amazon data is way more important than Facebook data, because Facebook is what you say you like, and Amazon is what you actually do, what you purchase. So all this noise that people are like, everything's too expensive, I'm out, I hate this economy. Well, that doesn't square with people out there shopping, and buying.
They're out there and they're buying things. I think that's important. There was this shift to services that was happening for a while. People were going to find dinner and trips and all of that. Now they're going back to buying physical objects, stuff at the stores. I'm from North Carolina. I was cheered to see the president in my home state. And I think that the tack that he took is interesting, which is he began by talking about something the administration's doing, bringing broadband to North Carolina. And then that was kind of an entry point to get into trying to compel that audience and the broader audience in this country to look at the whole picture. Retail sales is a part of that, but he wants to convey that if you look at all of the data together, this economy is doing pretty darn well. He moves from there to sort of take credit for that, point out the distinction between him and, as he said, his predecessor. He still won't say Donald Trump or President Trump, but he's getting closer to drawing that distinction and reminding people of sort of where we came from. Even in talking about broadband, the point that he made in that speech was, you know, or you must know people who during the pandemic had to go to a McDonald's and sit in the parking lot to get Wi-Fi so that your kids could go to school remotely. I think that exercise of reminding people how far we've come is something that he's going to have to drill down on more here as
And while that's happening, all week we heard CEO after CEO at the World Economic Forum in Davos talk about the fact that the economy is improving, that the Fed will likely cut rates this year, which will be a huge win for everyone. But we're also seeing a boom in new businesses starting. Why do you think that is? That doesn't often happen when rates are high.
No, and that's a crucial data point, again, when you look at the entire picture, but it shows that people are, yes, optimistic about the economy, but confident about where it's going as well. And there is this kind of arcane disconnect that we're seeing now between what Wall Street thinks the Fed's going to do and what the Fed, in fact, is going to do. And you hear Fed officials coming out and saying, we are going to cut rates. It might not happen as fast as you think they're going to, but again, directionally, we're going in the right direction. And you mentioned retail sales. Another kind of crucial number that we got today had to do with mortgages, and we saw the average rate on the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage down to the lowest it's been since May. So again, the progress we're seeing here is notably positive, and I think the president's right there on that.
But when it comes to the economy, we do hear from Trump supporters, we had it better when Trump was in office. We heard it this week from people in Iowa. What exactly are they talking about? What can they point to that was so much better?
Well, he talked a lot about it when he was in office, and I think there is that steady drumbeat makes people think that it was great. That was true. And then, like, he very skillfully ignores the pandemic, which was this huge thing. He thinks it's anomalous. Of course, it was an aberration, but an important one. And in the degree to which Biden does acknowledge that, Trump is very keen to
Okay, but isn't that so funny? Because he used to say all the time, look at your 401k, you're welcome. And Joe Biden never says that. And somehow people haven't realized, oh, wait a minute, my 401k is bigger, is better now. But it was Trump repeating it over and over. You're welcome, stock market. And people somehow believe it. Can't they just look at their statements?
They should. Again, I think it's kind of incumbent on the president to keep hitting this. I think that's what we saw in Raleigh today, is an effort to keep doing that. I think that's going to happen more and more. But, you know, we've talked an awful lot about sort of like, is the stock market the best barometer to look at the economy? Again, look at the whole picture. It's one part of the fact that I think things are doing really well.
Listen, the stock market and the economy are not the same thing.
Discrete objects.
However, the stock market doing well is a net positive for a whole lot of people that have any sort of investment. I do want to share something else that we heard from Donald Trump. He now says that he is going to put in place protections to stop banks and regulators from trying to, quote, debank you from your political beliefs. Can you explain what in the world that even means, debank you from your political beliefs?
I can explain it. You know, there have been very far right-wing activists who have had financial companies say that they're not going to do business with them anymore. But this is the thing that the former president is floating as though it's something that's happening to people across the board, that banks are saying, we don't want to do business with you because of your politics. We're talking about an aberration here. That is not happening widely. And you see this come up when bank CEOs come and testify before Congress. Some lawmakers bring this up. It's not happening. And I'll give credit to Philip Bump from the Washington Post, who wrote a great piece about this today, which is everything that Trump introduces or says, immediately things go catastrophic and worse immediately. And that's sort of what happened here. If you watch the moment from that speech in New Hampshire, he brings this up. It's kind of incomprehensible. And he goes to look at what they're doing to our country. Again, I will emphasize debanking, removing somebody from being able to use a bank or financial institution service is happening to an infinitesimal amount of people, but he's making it seem like it's something that's widespread.
I'm out of time, but then is the reason you hear from some bank CEOs, some big financiers, well, I'm still considering Trump, knowing the chaos that it would bring, knowing that he's somebody they wouldn't do business with and they wouldn't hire. Is it all because they know Trump won't regulate them, or he'll cut regulations, and likely he'll cut taxes?
I think that, of course, that's the case. And, going back to the World Economic Forum, a number of those bank CEOs spoke to people on the sidelines of that. And I was disheartened to hear how blasé they were about the choice that Americans are going to face. I didn't expect anybody to endorse President Biden or the former President Trump. But they seem to be very complacent about what's going to happen. And the stakes, of course, in an election are huge. I thought more of them would acknowledge that in those interviews.